mentioned earlier, Chelsea Pope has a character on her TikTok and her Instagram account that she didn't create, but she portrays. She plays not a character, a real life person. What is it, Jen? Am I saying the last name correctly?
It's Psaki. I was saying it wrong, and I was like already playing her.
So
it was like kind of like embarrassing. But also, yeah, I'm really not like an encyclopedia about the lady still, like, because I did another show where someone was like I was impersonating her, and like I got asked some like personal questions about Jen, and I was like, I don't know how many kids she has.
like, do you know where like people just hitting you up on TikTok now lately? I'm like, do you know where she went to school and or stuff like?
I do get comments from people that are like, who like a disturbing number of people comment thinking I'm Jen. And at first it's like, oh, are they just kind of like joking? Is this a bit? And I think in like not enough cases that's true. And more often than not, it's people who are like genuinely like, they genuinely think that Jen Psaki is making TikToks in like a yellow kitchen, like making fun of the press briefings she just did.
Yeah.
Like there are some dumb people in the world. I'm sorry. Like, and I'll get MAGA comments too. Like I'll get spammy MAGA harassment comments on like Instagram, TikTok, not so much Twitter, but I think Twitter filters, they have a filter setting for that. It's a little better than both of those other apps.
We talked about the COVID bill. We talked about how you get people who think you are my homegirl Jen. I'll just let everybody know right there. But like I said, I was one of those people that was fooled. I mean, so now you're saying that you get messages where people legit think, or dead ass think, that you are her. So like, what's the craziest thing that you not something that if you're not comfortable with telling us?
Yeah, no, I don't mind. I have no problem. I'm always oversharing. I should be better about not putting all my business online. That's actually something recently I was like, I really need to be better about like just keeping my mouth shut sometimes, because I'll tweet, like I'll screenshot like the crazy comments and tweet them sometimes.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that recently because like I feel like I'm attracting a bad vibe.
People are gonna start thinking that the press secretary is calling people out.
Yeah, or just like my own like immediate friends, like comedy people that I associate with, especially on Twitter. I'm just like, what kind of image is this really saying? Like, am I really portraying of myself? Like, where I'm being so reactive and sharing all that. Like, it's fun once in a while, but if you're doing it all the time, it just comes off really like reactionary and immature. And I am both of those things, but I don't want people to think that about me.
Yeah. No, or maybe there's a new segment or an account that you can launch, like Savage Jen or something like that, where she just.
I could. I mean, trying to play with her point of view, because I made my first video on the inauguration, and I didn't really have a lot to go off of because I wasn't that familiar with her. So that's why I started initially sort of doing stuff where she was very like a kindergarten teacher and, really soft and sweet. And then I'd done some more like more videos where she's sort of like poking fun at some of like the sillier right-wing things that are happening, like asking some very silly gotcha questions, or being asked about the Space Force, the Department of Justice, and not the Department of Justice is silly, but like, anyway, and now I'm at a point, because we're like a couple months into the administration. I think, there are certain aspects of how this COVID relief bill in particular has been handled, unemployment, and news about the Syrian strike. There's some criticism that is coming up, and that with that, and when you're doing political humor, point of view is like you have to really know what you're putting out there, and like have a purpose behind it. So I guess my Jen is having a slight existential crisis right now. But
well, I know you're right, especially if it's kind of funny. Like, even if you're just being funny or just teasing a little bit, you'll be surprised at how many people who are even supporting you and coming for the comedy will kind of get upset that it feels like you're not really that you don't know what you're talking about, or you hadn't done any little research. Like, this joke would have been funny if you'd just did a little bit more. I don't think Jen would have said it like that.
Yeah, I get people who don't like that I'm doing. Because I did a couple of these last couple of Gen videos I did them a little more off the cuff. Most of the stuff I do is improvised and spliced together anyway. Right. But the last couple were, they were I wanted to do stuff that was more silly. That's more like my sense of humor, which is very irreverent. And, like one of the Gen videos is just her struggling to take off a mask. And that just was like watching a press briefing of her. And when she walked up, it took like a longer beat than I expected for her to just get the mask around her hoop. She was wearing hoops, and she
thought it was gonna get caught for a long time in that hoop. Yeah.
So I did a video that was just that, and I got comments from a couple people who are like Psaki stans on TikTok who were like, "Why are you making fun of Jen? I thought you supported her." And I'm just like, if you can't handle that, what?
I'm like she even teased herself. I'm like, if you can't even handle a little bit, I mean, people think that SNL is all supportive of the Democrats. That doesn't stop them from teasing them if it's funny.
They definitely have made jokes about Hillary, and she's in stride, and or like the most recent Gen video I just made a couple days ago was, it was after the good news about the COVID bill had passed, and she said in the press briefing that same day after the House passed it that Joe was going to sign it on Friday.
Right.
I know why. I know it's because Congress had to go over the document. I get all of the rigmarole, but I thought it would be funny if there was another reason why it was going to take him 2 days to sign, which is why I made a silly video that is very much of my sense of humor. That was like, the president is unfortunately preoccupied with a large and ominous bald eagle that's following him around the White House. He is, and I got people who were like mad at that too, that were like, actually, Congress needs to they need to proofread the document, and you need to really know what you're talking. I'm like, I do know what I'm talking about. This is a joke.
guys, yes, exactly. These are jokes. Like, why does Chelsea have to get 100% of the details right if the point was to make a joke? It wasn't to report the news. We have CNN, we have Fox, we have MSNBC. Why can't we just tell the joke? We have to be loyal to the joke, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's what I would assume.
It's like I was saying earlier, where I'm trying to figure out the tone with her, and even if even though I really liked the joke about the eagle and thought it was fun and silly, it doesn't hit the same for like the people who follow, who they really vibed with the earlier videos where I'm being much more like, we have juice boxes, we walked through the house with sage, like people like that Gen, like almost more than one Gen that I'm trying to kind of figure out.
I have a theory. We went through 4 years dealing with a person who's all about marketing and never looking weak and hates people making fun of. So now it's like I wonder if people are trying to support Biden in that way, like any little criticism of him.
Absolutely.
We want to have that it's crazy. But I don't want to have that blind, mindless loyalty. Like if Biden makes a mistake, then I feel like it should be legit. Like, look, let me just be honest with you. Democrats are not afraid to eat their own and to beat up their own. Republicans might be like, we don't have. Oh, say that again.
Oh no, I was just saying it's a fact. I mean, the Democrats struggle with unity, and that's part of. That's part of the hot water that we've been in for these last 4 years. And I think there are people who are hesitant to laugh at the expense of the current administration just by sheer virtue of the fact that they're worried that that's going to
hurt them in the future.
That's going to crumble the stronghold that we have. Whereas I think the opposite, where if we're just blindly, in praise, there are still a very large faction of the country who didn't want this administration, who voted otherwise. And I think if we ourselves are not willing to acknowledge our own errors and rectify, you know, like have a little bit of a sense of humor about things, then I think that's only going to cause bigger problems down the
Yeah.
road,
Yeah.
especially during election seasons.
It'll all repeat all over again. I forgot the name of the movie, but there was a saying that reminds me of like life is a wheel. Sooner or later, things will come back around, and I don't want that. I don't want that same mistake of like, well, I don't, you know what, I don't even worry about it with the Democrats as much as some people might be upset with you for joking on or picking on Biden even a little bit, even if it's funny, even if Biden himself would have laughed at it. There is no fear of the Dems not, you know, criticizing themselves or policing themselves or whatnot. Like, I always joke, when I make a joke like that, I'm always like, look, if there's some liberals like me who will attack another liberal, like, you're not hugging that tree hard enough the way I would do. That's, you call yourself a recycler and a carer of the earth, and like, you're canceled. Like this just that's weird to me. I don't. And sometimes I do look on the other side. I am a lefty. I'm a lib, and I look on the other side. I'm like, that 11th commandment that you guys have on that side, where like, thou shalt not say nothing bad against another conservative. Or, I kind of wish we had a little bit of that, but that's sometimes I feel like that. But sometimes I'm like, no.
Like the right is. I mean, case in point, this COVID relief bill, not a single Republican voted in support of it in the Senate or the House.
But they all want credit for it.
Yeah, now they do, because it's been so widely, you know, I mean, it has, I know people who definitely have their reservations about it, myself too. But, you know, overall, we're thrilled to finally have COVID relief coming, for the love of God. And it's just,
how would Jen handle that? Like I was joking earlier, I was like, I'm like, if I'm from QAnon Inquisitor here, what do you have to say about the fact that Joe Biden just destroyed the country with this new relief bill? Like, what does the president have to say about this? Like, how do you think she would handle that?
Well, this country is very important to our president. And I would like to answer your question with another question before we circle back, which is, who let you in here? You're not a credible news source, and that chair is for CNN.
Okay. I would like to yield the rest of my time until I gather my made-up facts and have a better comeback for that. Thank you.
We do that. We never granted you any time to begin with, so no.
But it's crazy that and I'm glad that's funny how you're able to tap right into it. I think you're a perfectionist, because even when we were texting back or talking on, what was it, Instagram direct messaging, when I was asking it about bringing this up, and you were like, do I need to bring the wig? I'm like, no, that's not necessary, but hey, if you want to.
I asked just because you know, I when I do Jen, a lot of it is just like without the shirt, because I have like one or two specific blouses that are Jen blouses, and I have the wig. Right. But beyond that, I don't actually change my own voice that much. I have kind of a deeper register already. Mm-hmm. So I just tilt my head to the side, because that's her listening. And then I talk in I try to talk in her cadence, but my impersonation is almost tapping into like a slightly cartoonified version of like how I would speak as Obama a little bit, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of like a marriage between those two cadences, if that makes sense, when not necessarily when you listen to actual Jen talk, but like my impression of her, and people who seem to like really respond to it, they like this particular tone. And it's like, oh, I'm actually kind of doing something that's a little more Obama-esque, because he talks with he doesn't do the ums and uhs as much like Jen. And I'll acknowledge, just as much as I think she would, that she says and she does do fillers, and she does say circle back a lot. Mm-hmm. But she also will linger on a few different words for a moment and look around the room as she is answering the question with great reverence to who she is answering for. And it's like If I don't know if that made sense.
Like no, probably like the way you just catered to like if the QAnon Inquisitor was in the room, like you know, she knows she has a specific response for that that outlet. Is that if I'm thinking that part right?
She has a tone that she uses in general. I think even when she's being sassy to like right-wing reporters, that's very there's pauses between like there's pauses within a sentence, not just because she's trying to like finish the sentence, but I think also for like effect. Like there's a little bit of like she's trying to elicit a tone of
not like a hold for like wait for the applause, not like that.
Not necessarily. I think it's to impart like her own like composure, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think, you know, I'm bringing up Obama again because I do think he was like, I think still he's one of the like great orators of our time. And that's because he knows how to like spread eye contact. He knows how to turn like a single phrase into its own, you know, he knows how to make the right pauses for effect to make the content of a sentence land on the people who are listening to it.
Makes sense, yeah.
And that's something that I think Jen, I don't know whether she's consciously doing that. I don't think she is, but it reminds me a little bit of that, just especially on Inauguration Day, comparatively speaking to like Kaylee, her predecessor.
Who had that this was the biggest inauguration in history, period. Like she never had like that moment.
She was just like, you know, that was the big jumping off point I even had with Jen, was just like, for as much as I didn't really know that much about Jen, I just had a couple friends of mine who DM'd me and were like, hey, you kind of look like her, you should do a video of her. So I was like, I rushed to like, I put my hair in a side part and I put on a blue blouse and I was like, I might not be the best Jen, but I'm gonna be the first. And then the only thing I had to go off of initially was her first press briefing. And I listened to that and I just thought, this is the opposite of Kaylee McEnany and Sarah Sanders and Sean Spicer. There's a lot of empathy and patience here. She specifically, you know, she said very specific things that were like, you know, we're not always going to agree. That's what this is all about. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun together. You know, it was very much like a primary school teacher vibe. Yeah. And
which probably annoys a lot of the opposition. Like you're talking down to me. You're talking down.
Yeah. They accuse her of being both condescending and a bit of not a mumbler, but like she bumped because she says and as she's trying to answer things as like a sentence buffer.
And they've all and odd. I mean, it's especially.
It's not even the things that the right accuses the left of. It's not even. I can't take any of that seriously. Yeah. You know,
like it's a circle. It's like I said, it's just all gonna come back around.
The shape of the day is a circle. She's just. Anything that the right is accusing the left of, we know already that the right has done like far worse. And it's like, oh, Jen says and a little bit. She's at least answering questions. Her binder at least has words in it. And like Kaylee would walk on with a huge binder, and then she'd be like, "You're all a bunch of you're all a bunch of liars," and then just.
But when Kaylee does it, you know, she does it with blonde hair and she smiles more.
Oh yeah, this is like, I would get like I got like a comment on one of my videos on Twitter that was some crazy right-wing account that like put a meme of Jen Psaki as Raggedy Ann, and I was just like, how is this? Like, this is just like they're saying, oh, like, oh, Kaylee was like a beautiful Barbie and Jen Psaki was like a Raggedy Ann, and I'm just like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, that should
have been your response. Like, is that the best you got? That's
attack her looks and call her Raggedy or whatever. First of all, like, you don't have to think Jen's the most beautiful woman in the world, but she's definitely not ugly. You're really grasping at straws to try to call her
that low hanging fruit just to get a rise out of people.
And to consider that a value of yours as a voter, like to say that that's something you value in a press secretary is that she looks like a bar. No, she's got to answer questions. I would rather have a press secretary with a bag on her head that's actually like doing her job. You know, well, on top of the fact that I also think I do think that Jen is like, you know, I think a very attractive and well-composed person. I'm a Jen Psaki fan, you know, but you know, even if I wasn't a fan of her, that's just such it says so much more about the people who are attacking her, that they're just good. The only things they have are that she says she says circle back a lot, and she doesn't put on as much spray tan or bleach her hair like Kaylee. That's it. Like there's not much else that they're able to really work with, you know. Is she effective at her job? I mean, I think that's a good quality to have in the press secretary. People are going to criticize. I mean, at the end of the day, sure, there would be criticism for some of the answers she gives, because her job is always going to have problems, even for people who are Democrats who might be critical of something that Biden does. Like part of her job is that she has to sort of explain and be a bit of an apologist for Biden. So, you know, I don't always love the answers that she gives, but she's still doing what her job is.
Yeah, just like it's been done for every other predecessor.
You know, we might not like the answer. We might think that the answer is like just something that's
like spin or something like that.
Yeah, I guess in a way you could consider it spin. I think it's like, for instance, like the child detention center thing. I'm saying it like it's some small thing. You know, it's a big issue. We talked about Trump keeping kids in cages, and then issues with Biden having the detention facilities. But Jen has to, I mean, her job is she has to go up and she has to explain these decisions that these other people are making that she represents, or that she is a representative of. So she's, you know, part of her job is she has to explain and more or less justify why we're still having these detention facilities. So no answer is going to be a good answer to that, because we don't want them. You know, it's so thinking within that context, it's like, you know, she's going to face criticism because we're just not going to always like the things that Biden does. And I think we shouldn't always like the thing. I mean, it would be nice if we did, but we also should hold our politicians accountable to represent their constituents. We should just blindly praise them. Like, you know,
basically what you're saying is like, there's so many things that I guess we could be criticizing the administration on. Their hair, looks, and spray tan or whatever should not be a factor. but for some crazy reason,
she looks great. Even if she looked like a bag of hammers, she's at least doing her job. And on top of the fact that, like, and also too, like rewinding back to Sarah Huckabee, who I don't care. I thought she was ugly, and I don't mind saying that, because I also thought and still think she's a terrible person. But people who from the right would be like, how dare you attack her for her looks, and that, you know. It's just like the hypocrisy of the right is just so like
the way women are, I mean, in general are portrayed online. Like, that reminds me of like during an award season or something. Like, you would say like, who are you wearing and stuff. You only say that to, you don't say that to a guy. But then I love the fact that, and I think it was in the White House. I don't know. I can't remember if it was the Obama administration or not. Or somebody asked a senator, like, what are you wearing? And the guy turned around like, what the fuck? Like, he was shocked at that question.
We shouldn't be attacking for the looks in general, but if we are going to do that, then we should also recognize the hypocrisy within our preferences.
Yeah,
you know, naturally we're going to find the people who we agree with probably more attractive than the ones that, just psychologically speaking, like people that you have a preference of, you tend to also you know, you tend to also like project more favorable like opinions about other aspects of them, be it or otherwise.
That's almost like saying like a person's opinion is something like, if I'm going to have to listen to this person that I 100% disagree with, they better at least make me sexually attracted to them or something like that. Like, what the hell is that about?
Even then, it's like, if let's say Jen looked like let's say Jen was literally the twin of Kaylee, like physically, they would
attack her looks, and
the right would say, oh, she's just, look at her, she's a dollar store like wannabe, she's a wannabe Kaylee, she's trying so hard, like God, look at her, less time in the tanning bed and more time in the briefing room, okay? Like people would, that's what the right would say if you literally look the same as Kaylee.
Kaylee's briefing book wasn't that big. I mean, come on, quit trying so hard. Yeah, I know.
Exactly. They would say all of that. They'd just be like, "Wow, are there even any words in that?" But you know, all the stuff that which also Democrats and the left said about Kaylee. You know, like we do these things on both sides. We say salty things about the people we don't agree with. You know.
So it's getting out of hand, and it's snowballing, and I'm hoping that, I mean, it's never going to go away, but I'm hoping that at least for the next 4 years, because Biden is setting the tone of trying to tamper that down. I'm not going to tweet. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to, at least from the top. There's as much pressure that he's getting from his supporters, and maybe as much heat that he's getting from the opposition. As long as he just stays in the pocket and like doesn't fall forward and goes into that lane, mixing metaphors here. But I think it'll start to tamper down a little bit. But I'm glad we talked about that. Chelsea, if they want to find you online, where can everybody find you?
Cool. So they can follow me. Twitter and Instagram are at Chelsea the Pope. And TikTok is at Chelsea_Pope.
If you like what you saw, make sure to subscribe to the channel and please drop a like on this video. It really does help us. Also, don't forget you can turn on notifications so you don't miss a single review, react, why is that trending, or we got your mail.